The Dream SMP was an internet-breaking sensation. Millions of people would tune into live streams and watch their favorite YouTubers act out a powerful mythological story. But it seems the more and more time progresses, the more that magic fades away. But why? Is the Dream SMP dying? And if so, is there anything that can be done to fix it? Stay tuned and watch until the end, because I will answer all of those questions and more in this video. Please consider subscribing, and thank you very much for watching. Before we even attempt to answer these questions, we must first define our questions and define our terms. For instance, what do we mean by dying, and what does it mean when we say the Dream SMP is dying? When I'm saying that it's dying, I am referring to a drop in success, and not just success in terms of viewership and ratings, although I'm including those. I'm also referring to how successful it is as a Minecraft server, a storytelling medium, and attributes of that nature. It's important to recognize that dying isn't the same as dead. I would argue that the Dream SMP isn't dead, merely that the Dream SMP of the past was better than what it is now. To understand why it used to be better, we must first understand what made the Dream SMP good in the first place. Remember, millions of people would tune into these live streams, and channels all over YouTube would make content out of this. So what made it so darn good? I've laid out why I believe it was so successful in 3 main points. 1, timing. 2, the YouTubers who played it. And 3, the story. Firstly is timing. When Dream SMP first started, and really when most of the YouTubers who played it first got big, it was during a time period where most people were spending a lot of time inside, doing activities such as watching YouTube. This was a prime time for YouTubers to get views, and the smart YouTubers capitalized on that. Good examples being Dream and TommyInnit, not to mention the crazy amount of work they put into their content. So you can imagine how this turns into a positive feedback loop, giving the Dream SMP an initial jumpstart of popularity. This ties into number 2, the YouTubers who played on it. When Jay Schlatt first logged onto the server, and shortly after it was banned, a lot of people questioned why. Dream was strict as to who he invited, and I would argue that this was smart. Inviting people that he knows makes sure that interactions will likely be positive. Don't get me wrong, inviting new people and making more friends is not bad if done correctly, but too much chaos is not ideal. And the interactions themselves between the players were very entertaining. Watching them having fun, joking around, messing with each other, and even fighting each other made for excellent content. And when Wilbur Soot joined the server and gave those interactions a path and a purpose, the true gold of the server was created. Which is number 3, the story. Dream SMP may not have been the first ever SMP to create a story out of a Minecraft server, but it certainly did an amazing job, and I would argue that it's what turned it from a good Minecraft server into an incredible Minecraft server. Messing around and playing Minecraft with others is an extremely fun experience, but without any conflict, any adventure, or any meaning, the fun doesn't last for very long. There are reasons why we crave stories, and this deserves its own video, which I'll link in the top corner once I've made it, but there are deep, fundamental, evolutionary reasons why stories are a key part of what it means to be human. There are reasons why people line up and pay extra to watch the latest Star Wars episodes and Marvel movies. You just sit there and watch the most profound things, wizards and mutants and superheroes, but all of that is forgotten in the moment. And when someone's phone goes off in the middle of the theater, people really get mad because they don't want to miss the story. When you're a little kid playing outside during recess, pretending to be Darth Vader and Harry Potter, you're not thinking about how crazy it all is. You just want to be the one to chop off Luke Skywalker's hand this time around. And the same exact principle applies to the story of the Dream SMP. When you're sitting there watching the chaos unfold in front of you, you're not thinking about how crazy it is that these teenagers and adults are messing around in a block game. You're sitting there in suspense. Maybe you'll even turn on the notifications so you don't miss a beat. Perhaps you'll even go out and do similar things on your own Minecraft server with your friends. But why? Why do you and millions of other people take time out of their day to engage in this story? Again, because of the complexity of this question, I'll have to make another video on it, but it really boils down to one main principle. Stories are incredibly useful. Now, you might say that the purpose of stories is to entertain, and that's why they're made. And that's completely right, but why are they entertaining? There's actually more to it than that. There happens to be crucial, important information encapsulated in these stories. There's meaning to them, and the best of stories tell us how to deal with the tragedy of life, how to overcome the pain and suffering we face every day, and how to live a better life. They tell us the tips and tricks of the universe that we don't have to go out and figure out ourselves, and that's true even for the Dream SMP. That might seem crazy at first, because how could a story told by people in a block game tell you anything useful? This may seem so surreal and weird at first, because most of what I'm talking about actually happens subconsciously, without you even knowing it. See, over time, these stories adapted to our memory, and our memory has evolved to adapt to the world, thereby causing stories to adapt to the world. So when I'm interpreting and analyzing the stories of the Dream SMP, I am attempting to extract this important information that can help someone live a better life. But are there really lessons that can be learned from the Dream SMP? Yes. And this too really deserves its own video, which I'll have to make ASAP, but as a good example, take the classic hero myth. The hero myth seems to be laid out by a few people in the Dream SMP, but a noteworthy example is Tommy Innit.
Be a hero, Tommy? That's fine.
You
want to be a hero, Tommy? Then die like one! Okay.
The archetypal idea of the hero, where the hero goes out and encounters a dragon to obtain the gold or rescue the princess, is an astounding, useful idea to know. Because we actually encounter dragons in everyday life. Not in the form of literal monstrous creatures, but in the form of disease, death, financial struggle, and things of that nature. It's useful to know that you must face the dragon, fight it with courage, and obtain something of value. Those are the kinds of messages that can be found in stories such as the Dream SMP. But that all sounds great, so why am I saying that the Dream SMP is dying? It boils down to a few main problems. The first of which is deeply embedded in human nature, which is the simple fact that we just get bored, man. Without enough adventure and something new, we get really bored. And that doesn't just apply to the Dream SMP, but pretty much everything in the universe. We need a carefully balanced amount of chaos and order to operate optimally. And if the Dream SMP can't obtain that, not only will the viewers get bored, but the players who play it will also get bored, which is a trend that isn't surprising. If the players themselves get bored, or understandably have to do other things in their lives, this leads to inconsistency, and therefore a decline in viewership. Now don't get me wrong, it's a good idea to take breaks, and it's actually something I would recommend, but the breaks should be structured and planned. Think about how MCC took a break for a few months, or how Hermitcraft is structured in seasons. The intentional breaks allow the YouTubers to not get burned out, and allows the SMP to last for way longer. Another important problem to address is the way the mythological story is presented. Remember earlier how I explained why stories are so important to us? Another aspect that goes into storytelling is how the stories are told. There's a reason why you can spot a bad actor and therefore stay away from a bad movie or TV show. There's this magic that encapsulates you in the story, and without it, the whole thing falls apart. It's almost like you're aware of the silliness of it all, and it becomes cringe to watch. I don't want to overly judge or criticize the members of the Dream SMP, that's not my purpose, but I've seen a trend of people pointing out the over-the-top acting or the non-Minecraft features that seem out of place, and I would actually agree with that to an extent.
But then you have solo players that are building their own lore, like Puffy and Foolish. There are so many plot points that are loose and not connected at all. Personally, it's like there's so many plot holes that it actually feels confusing when watching their streams.
It's kind of been refined into this very planned out and scripted storyline. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I think actually Rambo and Tubbo talked about that while playing on the Origin SMP. Rambo actually mentioned, he actually just straight up said that they're going to try to revive the old feeling, that single feeling that you just mentioned. You know, improvisation is going to be amplified.
There needs to be balance. And I would argue that they actually achieved a very good balance with the more improv-like storytelling. See, too little of that, and you've just got a regular old Minecraft server. But too much of that, and the story becomes too complex and structured that you start to notice the scripted cues to the point that the story loses its magic and fun. This is the core of what I believe is the way to fix it. It's that same idea that I bring up in almost every one of my videos, the balance between chaos and order. This principle applies to almost every aspect of the server. First and foremost is the idea I just mentioned, which is constructing and telling the story in the right way. Finding the balance between improv, scripting, and just having fun streams here and there. There must also be balance in the story itself. A strength of the Dream SMP is the fact that you can follow who you want and see anybody's specific point of view in the story. But the downside to that is that it becomes very complex very quickly. So there needs to be balance in that too. And when it comes to the protagonists and antagonists, balance is key there too, which is something I've talked about in a few other videos I'll link. At the end of the day, the Dream SMP is an incredible server, a place where many very entertaining YouTubers can gather together and tell an amazing story. And although that magic that made it so great may be fading, I still believe in the lessons the story holds. And hey, Technoblade's in it, so perhaps it'll never die.